Okay, hello everybody. Very excited to present Aleeza Ben Shalom in the second. It's a class, a workshop for us as matchmakers to have more skills to help our singles. And then when we don't have singles, we call Aleeza. So it's a win-win all the way around. Last time Aleeza helped us, it was really quite well received, and we all walked away with learning something. What I like to say about Aleeza is every time she opens her mouth, I learned something. So hopefully we're all going to learn something together. And tonight, Aleeza is going to go through 3 tools that we can use in our matchmaking to help our couples be stronger, do better, and connect more. So Aleeza first is going to give us the tools, and then we're going to have a question and answer session, which is always exciting. We'll try to keep it on topic for the 3 tools first, and if we exhaust that, then we will open it up a little, and then we'll go around the room to see what you thought was your biggest takeaway, and perhaps ideas of what you'd like to see Aleeza help us with in the future. So thank you, and Aleeza, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Laurie. Always a pleasure to do a webinar with you and to help to matchmake singles. I love to support everybody in their challenge in progressing couples and moving through the dating process. And I really think that some of the greatest things that we struggle with is getting the momentum going and getting couples to progress from where they are to where they need to be in order to get to those next stages. So I have 3 tools that we're going to run through right now. And then I would love to hear from you. If you have questions, you can always pop them in the chat box, and Laurie will check them out, and we'll get the discussion going, and we'll open it up. We hope that this will be interactive. Also, this is being recorded, so if there's anybody that you want to pass this on to, we will send you the recording and they can grab it as well. Okay, so here we go. Tool number 1, which is something that's going to be no surprise to you, but it is effective communication. And what I want to tell you about this tool is something different than you normally hear. What we normally hear is couples have to have communication, they have to have good communication, they have to know how to work with each other, how to learn from each other, how to talk to each other, how to connect. We know that, right? That's nothing new. What's new is one of the ways that you can tell if they're going to be successful in being an effective communicator with their partner is how communicative are they with you? How well can they hold a conversation with you? How well can they navigate and progress a conversation and a relationship with you? So as you're having conversations with singles, whether it's a 15-minute call, an hour-and-a-half call, it doesn't matter how long that call is. Usually you can notice that there's something going on with communication if they're struggling with it. And by the same token, if you have a very effective, strong communicator, you can usually tell that too. I was speaking with somebody today, and he was a clear, articulate, had his mind and his heart, everything all in place, and he knew how to get it from his brain and his heart out of his mouth so that I understood it. And at the end of the conversation, I acknowledged that to him. And I thought, wow, you know, whatever relationship he's in, I'm not going to be worried about him. It's still going to have to be a shidduch. It's still going to have to work. But what I'm not worried about is him being an effective communicator. By the same token, I had a girl call me a couple weeks ago, and just she would start to tell me something, and she would say, oh, you know what I mean. And then she would interrupt herself, and then she would start a new conversation about something else. And halfway through it, she would tell me, oh, and you know what I mean. And she kept not completing her thought or her sentence. And I thought, okay, so first of all, wait. No, I don't know what you mean. Could you explain what you mean? I understand what you're saying, but what you mean, no, I don't understand what you mean. Could you tell me a little bit more about that? And she couldn't do it. She couldn't. It didn't matter how many times I stopped the conversation to say, wait, give me an explanation. Can you define that? Can you share a little bit more? Tell me more. I need more information. She couldn't get it out. And what we uncovered is that she has this inhibition, this fear, something holding her back from being open and being vulnerable, even with somebody who's not her beshert. And I'm confident if she does that with me, she does that with you, she does that with anybody that she is talking to and in a relationship with. It probably happens with family and with friends as well. So we learned that this is something that she needs to work on before she's in a relationship, because if she does not have effective communication skills, she's going to get into the relationship and she's going to tell him, oh yeah, you know, like, you know what I mean? And he's going to look at her and think, no, actually I don't. And she's going to say, what do you mean? You don't understand? No, you really get it. You understand. And he's going to say, no, I don't. And she just couldn't even get the words out. So the first tool is to think about effective communication and think about how the person that you are speaking with is communicating with you. And are they an effective communicator? And if they are, great. And if they are not, in what way can you help them, or can you identify, it sounds to me like we've had a conversation and in the last 10 minutes, you've said to me, do you know what I mean, several times, and I still don't know what you mean. And I'm just concerned. I don't want this to happen on a date also. So I want to bring it to your attention because I'd love to really know what you mean, because I really want to get to know you. And I'm sure your date is going to also want to get to know you. So we can use this as an effective tool to help somebody to recognize what's happening and to hopefully overcome their lack of effective communication before they end up on their next date.
Mhm.
Yeah, Laurie, is there anything, a story or anything that you wanted to add?
I was coaching a guy, and he didn't have a lot to say and was not a communicator. And I advised him that he should go and create conversations with other people out in his world, and how to have deeper conversations and how to ask questions that tell a story. The way I coached him was to how to ask deeper questions, but to practice with people that he was not dating.
One of my favorite techniques. I love it and I strongly believe in it. I was working with a boy, and he said to me, look, I can't practice with you. I can't role play. I can't role play with anybody else. I'll figure it out when I'm on the date. And I said, but you won't. You haven't figured it out up until now. You're not going to magically figure it out on the date. Us talking about it doesn't do us any good. You actually need to role play, whether it's with me or, like you said, with anybody in his world. He or she needs to go through that. And I have a feeling I'll get a call back after the next couple of dates, because it's going to be an issue. So I firmly believe in practicing forms of communication. If people are too shy or reserved, they do need to learn how to ask questions, and they also need to learn how to tell stories so that they can communicate and connect with the people that they're talking to.
Great.
Thank you. Okay, so number 2, in terms of coaching and helping your couples to progress, I want to talk about consistency and momentum. So in dating, I have a little theory. Not everybody is on board with this, because across different spectrums, everybody has different opinions about how quickly or slowly dating should move. But in general, I believe that dating needs a rhythm and it needs a momentum. And if we don't get into a rhythm or a momentum of the dating, then it's very hard to get something going. We don't know if they're calling or when they're calling or when we're going out. And then the single starts to worry, and do they like me or don't they? There has to be a certain momentum and a rhythm to actually make something happen. And so in the beginning, I talk about having 3 dates in 10 days, which normally people say, oh my gosh, 3 dates in 10 days. I said, well, yes, it means you're going to have a date the first week. And then before the end of that first week, at some point, it could be towards the later part of it, but 5 days later, or even 6, you should have another date. And then within a few more days, you should have another date. And the reason for that is to get things moving and rolling. If you like each other, you're going to like each other. If you don't, we're going to know that also. But the challenge is when we have a date and then a week and then a date and then a week and then a date and then a week. And especially now with things being virtual, where it's a virtual date. So as much as I would get from you in person, I get less than half of that. I get a quarter of you through Zoom, it's just not the same. And there's not enough momentum to keep something going. And it's not consistent enough. Our brains, our bodies, our hearts don't have time to get into a rhythm. And so at the beginning of dating, I recommend 3 dates in 10 days. If we're moving towards the middle or trying to get things to the middle of dating, we need to have some formula, which is a generic formula that's appropriate for you and the singles that you coach. How often do you want them to go out? How often do you want them to speak on the phone? How often would you like them to be on video? Are you okay with texting, or is texting just for tachlis? What are the things that you've seen for the couples that you work with that are successful? Now, every couple is unique and individual. We could create our own formula, but you need to do a little bit of an evaluation of what has worked for the people that you work with and to figure out how do you get this going? Because in the beginning, they're going to count on you to get the momentum. At a certain point, they might drop the shadchan, and then you have no control over helping them to keep things going. But if you got them going in the beginning and a little bit into the middle, then they should be okay, and they should get into a rhythm and be good on their own. Sometimes things fail, and I would call it a technical fail, which means actually they're a good match. There's nothing wrong with the match. They just don't have the success to get on the dates at the right time and to make it happen. And it's just the process of dating is failing, but not the people in it. So as shadchanim, I want you to think about what you can do to facilitate that timing to be a smooth timing for them.
I've been following your advice on that since I started being a matchmaker, Aleeza. And it's excellent advice, that momentum dating thing.
Great, great. Okay, the last thing, and then we're going to take questions, is something that Laurie always says, which is when you see it, say it. So this is talking about identifying for the couple themselves to identify what they see or what they value about the person that they're with. So this does not usually happen in the beginning. We're not using this for the beginning dates 1, 2, and 3, although a person could, but it's not as natural for couples to do that in the beginning. This is more 4, 5, 6, and beyond. And what we want to do is to help people to get comfortable with identifying what they see about somebody else and what they value in them. So if they, let me just think of an example. Somebody comes to the date, the guy happens to be well prepared, and he brings water, and he brings snacks, and he brings games, and you notice he really put himself out there to do something. So if a girl is on the date and it's a 5th date, she should make sure to acknowledge and say, you really prepped for this date. She could do something fun. It could be playful. It could be serious. It could be genuine. It could be sincere. It can come through with her personality, but she's got to see something and she's got to say something, or he has to see something and he has to say something in order to facilitate moving things ahead, deepening the relationship, and building the connection. Because if we don't identify the person in front of us as somebody that we value and that we like and that we connect to, then it's not going to help our couples to get any further. And a lot of them get tripped up over this step because this is the part where, oh my gosh, I have to be emotionally vulnerable. I mean, what if I don't know if I like them? I should still compliment them, but it's going to build a relationship, and I don't know if I want to build a relationship. And if I build it, then maybe it's a false building, and they go through this whole thing and their head is spinning out. I can't even give a genuine compliment because I don't know if I want to marry them. So we have to just take 10 steps back and tell them it's okay. We don't need you to marry them. We need you to go out. We need you to give it your best effort, and we need you to make a strong investment. And the way to do that is through when you see it, say it, and find things to compliment. But also, like Laurie said before, they should practice this in the rest of their life with their friends, when their friends do things for them. When you see it, say it. With their parents, with their mentors, with anybody who does anything for them or is there for them in a way emotionally. It can be physically, it can be emotionally, it can be spiritually. It doesn't matter what way it is. We have to identify the good. So just for example, Laurie and I were talking about the webinar tonight, and she said something about, how do you want me to introduce you and what do you want me to say? And I mean this genuinely. And I said, Laurie, you always do a great job of introducing me. I don't have anything special I need you to say because I think that you get me, and you do a great job of just putting out there who I am. And it's a simple little thing, and it builds a rapport, and it builds a relationship, and it's true. It can't, by the way, it can't be something that's not true. You can't tell somebody to say something they don't see, which is why it's when you see it, say it. You have to see it. Now, what happens if you have singles and they are not seeing something and they are not acknowledging something? Then we have a problem. Then we have to take 10 steps back and say, okay, what's going on? Why are you not noticing this? Where is your compassion? Where is your empathy? Where is your connection? What's happening here? And that might not be a role for you to play. We might have to pass them on to a therapist or on to somebody else, but at least you'll have that awareness, and they'll have that awareness, and they'll know that there's something for them to do.
Okay. Well, I'd say that's my takeaway then, Aleeza, because I think I've never asked somebody, are you saying it? Or ask the other part of the couple, are you hearing it? You know, are you connecting because you're hearing the good, you're hearing that somebody understands you. So I think that's
Right.
okay. Does anybody have any questions so far? Are you done with your?
Yeah, those are the top three. I'll go over it. Effective
Okay.
communication, and you knowing that that they are or are not an effective communicator because you've been communicating with them, using that as a tool. Consistency and momentum, figuring out the speed of dating and getting the dates going and flowing and moving for you, for your singles, for your community, what's appropriate for you, what works with dates in person, virtual, video, telephone, texting. And when you see it, say it. Identify the values and the things that we notice about other people.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? We're a small enough group that you can unmute yourself and you can ask a question.
Or thoughts or comments. Hi.
I actually have a question, comment. I really like what you've outlined, and I would very much like to be more involved between the members of the match. I make myself available. I typically say I'll be as involved or not involved as you would like me to be. I don't find that the members on Why You Connect, because that's the site I'm on, they don't really know, many of them don't know how to use the shotgun. And some of them will use me a little bit in the beginning when, you know, does she want to talk to me again, et cetera, et cetera. I try to cultivate an openness and a relationship to have the opportunity to nurture the members and the relationship, but they don't often avail themselves of that.
Okay.
And I'd be very happy, you know, for some suggestions or input or whatever.
Great. Okay. Okay. So first off, what you identified is that they don't know how to best use you. And that happens a lot because they're on a site, they're not necessarily, maybe they would or wouldn't use a matchmaker, maybe they have or they haven't, or they use them more or less, but everybody's doing something different. So instead of counting on them to know how to use you, I would rather you tell them how you want this relationship to go. And you can outline it and have a system, which is, I just want to say, hello, I'm Regina. Nice to meet you. Here's what I like to do with my couples, and here's what I find to be successful and work for me. I'm going to make a match suggestion, and then you outline it step by step. I'm going to make a suggestion. Once you both accept, my expectation is that you'll, you know, speak within X number of days, and after the first date, that you'll send me an email check-in from both sides so that I know where you're at, and that you'll make a second date within the next, you've set up the timeline, 5 or 6, you know, 3 to 5 days. And
3 and 10 days.
3 dates in 10 days is my rule.
Yeah.
And here's what I've learned. And then outline it, make sure copy and paste it and save that, because you're just going to send that to every member every time a match goes through, and you send it to both sides. Now, whether they follow your system or they don't is totally up to them. But you've said, here's how you can best utilize me and work with me, and here's how I can best help you to be successful with a match. and I find these things to be helpful, and I look forward to working with you. And now I know, oh, if I want to work with Regina, she works like this. And I also have a certain comfort knowing if I have a question or a problem, you expect me to come to you, because I might have had other experiences with other matchmakers where they don't want me to call them. And so I just figured everybody doesn't want me to call them.
Okay.
But I didn't know that you actually wanted that I could build a relationship with you.
Okay. And do we know that setting this kind of a structure out is acceptable to the site? Because I've never been that formal about it.
Absolutely.
So that, yeah, because I've just never, been so precise, and, I communicate. Go ahead.
Right. I would tell you, sorry to interrupt. I would tell
No,
you
it's
that
okay.
what I like to do, the way I like to do it, is to have the rules or my outline or what I prefer, and then to be flexible with it. Meaning I'm not so firm that if you don't follow this, you're out and that's
Right.
it and you can't be. It's
Right.
more like, here's the best way to work with me. Here's the ideal. What happens in reality happens in reality. We need to be very forgiving. Life happens. Singlehood is
that's
difficult.
very helpful. That's very, very helpful.
Regina,
Yes.
Regina, if you've talked to your member and they know you and you already have that relationship, it's much easier to get them to, follow what you are interested in doing to help them.
Yeah.
And I find that it's even, if you can get them to call you within 24 hours after the first date, that's a good way to go, because if you let people just email you after the first date, you'll get a lot of one and dones. But if you talk to each person, it's really possible you can save the shit off. Yeah. So, if you can get them trained to call you within 24 hours, I think you'll do really well with that. And I love what Aleeza is telling us, that set the expectations. They won't always do it. That I know.
No, but teach people how to work with you. Again, not everybody follows rules, but as long as I know what I am capable of doing and how I best help people, then they can make an effort to work within my system or not, and it's okay.
Okay. I just want to add one more comment, is that I've started asking new members that if they've had an ongoing relationship for a while with somebody, and they decide that they don't want to carry on, I've asked them to let me know before they blow up the match.
Excellent.
They blow it up.
And then they come to you to repair it. Excellent.
Well, that hasn't happened yet. That would be good, but only to say there's no opportunity to even figure it out and possibly intervene in a helpful way. So I am asking people to let me know if it's going awry, and that maybe we can figure it out before they blow it up. So I do the same thing, and the way that I explain it to my clients, and I'm coaching, not matchmaking, so it's different, but I tell them, listen, you're going out and you're 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, there's something that's happening here. If you like this rule, you could follow it. It'll save everybody a lot of headache and heartache. You can't break up. You can, but you have to call and break up with me first before you break up with them. You have to practice breaking up with me. And if I buy into this breakup, if I believe what you're saying, it all makes sense. And it's true. Pretty good reason to break up. This isn't going to work. Great, then you can break up. But if I can present to you why maybe you should consider this or think about that, or you could break up, but just not today. I sometimes tell them, I'm not going to convince you not to break up, but I might ask you not to break up today and to wait till the next time or the next time, because there might be something else to evaluate, and I don't want you to do it too soon. Some people rush to break up. They have a reason, and all of a sudden they don't want to get stuck and they don't know what to do. And if it's not a yes, it must be a no, and then it's a no, and then it's not really a no. It's not really a no. So that's my language and how I phrase things. That. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great.
You're welcome.
Love that. Love that. Thanks, Regina. Regina, who just made 2 matches within the last couple months. Yeah.
Fantastic.
My first 2.
That's spectacular. And during the most difficult time in the world. Well done.
Yeah, thank God. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. You're off to a great start. Yashikoa.
Hashem.
Anybody else have something to ask Aleeza?
I'd like to say something, please. Sorry, my camera's not working right now. But what I do sometimes that I think might be helpful for somebody else is that after each date, I have each person tell me something positive about the date. I'll say, tell me something nice. Did you notice something nice about the other person? And it really helps them to start thinking. And then I give over that information to the other party, and it just helps people become more comfortable and encourage them. And even if the shidduch doesn't go through, they walk away with somewhat of a good feeling, like, wow, they really appreciated this about me. And I just think it just makes everybody feel more comfortable, and it helps, it's sort of like role playing this communication piece to them and helping them recognize and look for the good things. So I just wanted to share that.
I love that. I have a quick question. Do they know that you're going to tell the other person, or is it just, do they assume that that's what's going to happen?
It's a good question. That is a good question. I've never said to them, is it okay? Maybe I should have. I've never said to them, is it okay if I share that? I've never done that. But I think that they do know, because when I tell them, I'll always have something in return. Oh, that's really nice, because he told me that you were such a great listener, that he really felt that you gave him your full attention and wasn't distracted. So they're getting something back. I think the first time that they hear it, maybe they don't expect it, but this is sort of like an unwritten rule that I have, that I ask, for something back in exchange. Just tell me something nice.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And I think it does exactly what the goal that you're looking for to accomplish, which it builds that connection where they're like, oh, they like this about me. Oh, I like this about them. And then it starts to be the recognition that there's actually something there, or the beginnings of something there.
Exactly. And I'm extremely careful never to embellish. It's always very, very accurate. And I think that's like a real key, that nothing is ever inflated or embellished. It has to be sincere. And it's not like I'm like, pulling something out. I'm just like really encouraging them to share. And in the beginning, it could be something small. And then over time, it builds up. They become like, it becomes more regular and, habitual. And, they feel, I see all the time, always 100% across the board, that they feel good about being able to give back and communicate. It's a real self-esteem booster and a sincere, honest way.
It also sounds like it's a tool that's teaching them, first tell me something good, right? And I'm going to be the go-between to pass that. And every time afterwards, tell me something and I'm going to do that. And then at a certain point, you're not going to do that. You'll pull yourself out of the middle, and then they'll just be doing that with each other. So you'll have already trained them that this is what they do after the date. They reflect and they come up with something positive.
Absolutely. And they tend to talk about it on the date as well. Like, they say like, Mrs. Pecker mentioned, this, and then they'll sort of add to the story or talk about it, or, it just becomes something really special. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Just to comment on Aleeza's, the question I like to ask after the date is, tell me what you liked about him. Before I say, how was the date? Did you like him? It's the same idea that Aleeza has, and I think it does build momentum and it builds excitement. So I'm with you, Aleeza. Okay, somebody else want to contribute? Comment, question?
So somebody said, sorry, I don't have a camera or a mic on this computer, but the question is, what about negative feedback? I've had situations where one single wants the other one to know what they have an issue with, or if someone needs to grow from this feedback, should it be shared? Oh, negative feedback. Okay, so I really struggle with this because so is it negative feedback, meaning universally negative feedback, where we could say across the board, 100 people, line them up, they would all give you the same negative feedback? Or is this personal negative feedback that just irritates this person, right? So it's a thing that bothers them, but it's not a fault or something that's negative really about a person. So first, I like to decipher what is negative, my experience of the person or their behavior or something about them. The second thing I would want to know is there something that this other person can do about it? Or is this either who they are or something that they can't change? Or, basically the question is, what's the purpose in sharing negative feedback with somebody? And I do think that you have to be careful and very careful, extra, extra careful when we're dealing with negative feedback. In the same way with positive feedback, we don't want to embellish. With negative feedback, we don't want to embellish, but we have to have a purpose. If there is no purpose, then sometimes I've had situations where somebody says, well, we'll go with the typical one, not my look, but maybe if he or she dressed a little bit differently, maybe I'd feel a little bit better. Maybe that would help. So not my look is very subjective. There's nothing that's wrong with that human being's face, even if they have a deformity, even if there is something physically wrong, there's somebody in this world who is going to look at them and think that there is something beautiful there and are going to love them. Will that actually help them? Is that necessary? It's very difficult. If you've worked with somebody over a period of time and you get consistently the same negative feedback, okay, there is something that definitely is going to be problematic for them in dating, because this is more than one person that said it. If you haven't worked with somebody for a long time, or if this is the first time something's coming up and you've worked with somebody for a while, maybe it's not about that person. Maybe it's about the person who's giving the negative feedback. The other question that I have is the person who's giving the negative feedback one of those complainers who always gives negative feedback? It doesn't matter what you do. You could have a fantastic date and they will tell you the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that are wrong with that person and that date. And you're never going to please them. So if we have one of those types of people, then that's also something that, I don't know, is that information necessary? Probably not. But if we're just talking about generically, I don't know, let's does anybody have any specific examples that we could use? Because I could give you an answer if we have 1 or 2 or 3 specific examples that maybe you have dealt with it or that you are currently dealing with. Did somebody just come off mute?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I just had an experience where I set a couple up, and the girl did not want to continue because she felt that she was squeezed into his schedule. So he had set a date up, and then he asked if he could postpone it by 30 minutes. And then 30 minutes later, she came home from work and she got all dressed up to do a virtual Zoom date. And he was in his car and he said he was at the gym with his personal trainer. And then he came home and he was walking through his house and he had to go shower. And then he cut the conversation again and took her on the phone in an Uber. And so she said, he's not putting me first. And I did tell him that. I said, this is how she feels. He's an older single. It's the first time I've ever set him up. And I'm sure, he sounds like he has such fantastic qualities about him. I would even think of setting him up again. But I think that what he maybe didn't, at the time, I thought maybe what he didn't realize was that how serious he has to take this, that it's not like a casual, girls need to be, and I did, preempt him about she's a little bit of a romantic, so I was surprised that he even did this, but I felt like he did need, I feel like sometimes Hashem puts us in a situation when we notice things in the kindest way, we have the opportunity that we could help if we can do it in a kind way. And if we think, like you said, if it's nothing that they could change, like the size of their nose, then of course we're not going to say anything. But if it's something that maybe they could modify a skill, however, I'm not so sure now that I did the right thing, because I spoke to somebody, one of his mentors, and I was told, he's he's a very busy person. Like he's told me, I don't know if he's capable to sit and pay attention. So, he's such a
Okay,
great
so
person, but
okay.
he might not be capable. So I don't know. But that was
Okay, so first of all, I would like to reassure you from the story that you shared, you did the right thing. And that is a prime example of behaviors and things that need to be modified in order to make space in your life for somebody else. And that is 100% an example where that person needs to be told. That would be, to me, something that qualifies as universally problematic. If you told me that story about 100 other people, I would tell you the same exact advice, that this is not how we approach dating. If it's how you approach dating, that's your way, and that's the only way that you can date. Me, if I was a matchmaker for that person, I would say, I'm sorry, but I can't work with you. Because the way that I help couples to build relationships is to have communication, is to make time and space for each other, is to cut out other things in their life and filter. Like a horse with blinders, we don't want him looking everywhere. We don't want him in an Uber or walking down the hallway. I don't like when singles are like this with a video camera and they're walking and they're like, yeah, I can talk to you. I'm just out for my walk. And, oh, it's just convenient that I'll just be talking to you. I walk as I bounce and I don't feel comfortable and it's just not working. So I don't like to, I do like to call attention to these types of behaviors. And I do let people know that this is not appropriate. This is not okay. And here's how I expect things to go. So I don't, I mean, if the advice from this other person is, oh, they'll never be able to focus, then great. Let's find them a girl that is not so sensitive, that does not care about what's going on, that does not need somebody to pay attention to them, that can live two very independent lives and have very, like two ships passing in the night, have very little contact with each other. And that's the type of relationship that he would be qualified for. But he wouldn't be qualified for a real emotionally available and intimate relationship with somebody. If that's how he treats dating, I don't expect him to treat a relationship any better than that. It's a great example. Thank you. Thank you so much. Laurie, was there a comment in?
Yeah, Tamar had a comment. My situation was that the girl was too quiet, holding back. She admitted to me she was. It helped a lot when she knew he was waiting for her to be more open.
So hold on, sorry.
So that came from, giving feedback. What about
Right.
negative feedback? So I don't know that that's negative feedback.
Right. So being more open. Well, what's negative is that his experience of being on a date with her isn't positive, and that's what's negative about it. But I think it's constructive criticism more than negative, and it's not necessarily criticism. It's just, I want to get to the next stage with you, and here's what I need to get there, and I'm not finding this. This isn't working yet. And we're looking for that bridge, which is a great opportunity for a shadchan to be a bridge and to say, we need to get to this next stage. And here's my recommendation of how to do it. And we need you to open up, share stories, connect, do something on a deeper level.
Okay.
I think it's a good example.
All right. It's 1:15. So let's go around the room and you'll have an opportunity to say what your takeaway is. And if you have any ideas of what you'd like to see in the future from Aleeza helping us, and if you had a question. So we'll go to, is that Miriam Gross over there? Miriam, do you want to unmute? Are you there? Okay. How about Gittel? How about everybody unmute, and then I'll see who I can call on. Are you there? Can you unmute?
Hi, it's Miriam Gross. It was hard for me to unmute.
There you go. Everyone else, please unmute so we can get you right away. Go ahead, Miriam. Comments, takeaways, ideas?
Okay, so I did ask a question on an email. I don't know if those are going to be addressed tonight. But I guess I can ask it over here. I had a couple dating, and I mean, it's already gone, but it's for the future, I'd like to know. They were building momentum, and they were ready to get engaged. But then he hadn't done the Dor Yesharim because he was Sephardi, and he said he didn't realize he had to do it, but the other party wanted him to do it, so he did it. So it was like a 2-week, they were still dating, but they were waiting for the Dor Yesharim results. And somehow the momentum went downhill. And she wanted to ask her Rav what to do. And he suggested that she take a 6-week break. And then she didn't want to go back to it afterwards. And they were literally like ready to get engaged. So I don't know what fell and how I could have fixed it.
That's a really tough situation. And the hardest part is when you have another party intervening and, you know, recommending that they, you know, cut it off and take a break. Personally, just in general, I'm not a fan of taking a break, except, you know, there's always exceptions to the rule. But in general, if couples would ask generically, should we just take a break and we'll take some time apart? And in general, I say no. In general, I say, let's finish it out and see, unless there's extenuating circumstances, there's specific reasons. But in general, I find exactly what you just described to happen, which is we lose the momentum, we lose the drive, we forget what we like about them and why we were in this. And then all of a sudden we look back and we're like, oh yeah, no, forget about it. I'm just moving on. And there was real potential there. Why do they forget? It's not that they forget, it's that there's something else that's bothering them and they're afraid to talk about that. And so then their memory goes blank and then they don't remember anything. They just kind of have, you know, shidduch amnesia. So, the only thing as a shadchan, not the only thing, but one thing as a shadchan that you can do is just keep a pulse on the situation if they will let you throughout the dating process, and keep a little bit of a closer connection. But again, when somebody's going through something and they're not sure, they're uncomfortable with it, a lot of the times they will start to pull away. So if you notice, this is a good signal that somebody's in touch with you regularly, they have good communication, and then all of a sudden they're drifting apart. Don't assume the shidduch is fine and that they're going to be fine. Make an effort, reach out to them, because it might be that it's starting to fall apart and they don't know what to say or how to say it, or they're afraid to tell you for whatever reason, just because they're afraid, because they don't want to share, or something's bothering them. And a lot of times people come to me and they're like, I don't know, Aleeza, there's just something. And I said, great, you do know. And there is something, and we're going to figure it out. And I empower them to let them know that I know it's in there, and you don't have to be afraid to tell me, because I am not going to judge you based on this information. I just need to know what it is so I can help you through it. And I also give them permission to be okay with, well, whatever it is, if we need to end the shidduch, then we'll end the shidduch. You could tell me, it's okay. It's not, you're going to tell me and I'm going to push you through and I'm going to convince you why this is no big deal. You can be open, you can share with me, and we'll figure this out together, how to either move through it or to say, no, thank you, and we'll walk away. Either are okay options, but you do have to keep a closer relationship with them, and not everybody will allow you to do that. So it's a little bit challenging.
Thank you. I actually did. I was very involved, not with the girl, but with her mother. Maybe next time I have to be involved with the girl herself. It was the mother.
100
feedback.
Correct. And the mother might be putting, a lot of times I deal with the singles and somebody else is putting something in their head, whether it's the mother or a friend or a mentor that just put one little thing in their head. Oh, they did this. You know what that means? And then all of a sudden their head explodes and they just go off on a tangent, and it gets very confusing.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, nobody else is unmuted, so except for Regina. So we'll just ask Regina. Anybody else who wants to speak, please unmute yourself. Oh, Aleeza. Regina, what's your takeaway, and what would you like to see in the future?
I'm very grateful for this. This is a big dose of support, and the contact with other matchmakers is really nurturing. I think the 3 points that you outlined for us tonight are extremely valuable. And also your encouragement to make, you know, for lack of a better word, a treatment plan for my approaches with my members. I'm an OT, so that's the word that comes to mind. But, you know, for, you know, like a blueprint for how it could go to maximize the benefits of my involvement, if they will permit it. It's really, it's helped me to move towards doing that. So I really appreciate that, because I've just felt in so many instances that I could possibly be more helpful to these young people if I had a way in. So I'm going to present it, and I thank you for helping me get there. So
you should have a lot of success and blessings, and your treatment plan should go smoothly.
And treatment plans can be modified accordingly. So
they can, but you should make a script and you can copy and paste it. It'll save you hours from rewriting the same thing, and then you modify it as you go.
Will do. Thank you.
I think I'm going to make a video. And
oh, that's perfect.
That's
3-minute video. People are more apt to watch a video than to read.
That's true. That's true.
Let's go to Phyllis.
Hi. I'm so happy to see you. Yasha Kalach on everything you're doing. I am so embarrassed. I could not get on the seminar. I had trouble with my computer. So I can't wait to hear the beginning of the tape. But I just love having you and the support. It's wonderful. And I just want to add one thing. Because of what's going on in the world now, the dating has become so strange. And one of the problems I'm finding most is the men are telling me they're not phone people. They're not good on the phone, and they're good for 2 calls, and then they run out of what to say. So I'm trying to make a list of topics and things that they could talk about. I heard something about you start saying, what did you like, or something to give them something to talk is great. But any ideas you have, I have one couple that get dressed up and they have wine and they have dinner together wherever they are separately.
Lovely.
Yeah,
I thought that was kind of a nice idea. Or I have a game someone gave me called Matchmake, and you can sit and play it on the board with die, and you each, it's situational questions. You land on a box and it said, what do you do in this situation? And then each one answers, so it gives them something else to talk about. But short of that, any other suggestions you have, perhaps you've said it before and I missed it, but that would be a great help.
Okay, I love that. I love that. What would you do? And they make up scenarios. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So for some people, it's just, they're not good at the art of conversation. They don't like phone or video. Exactly. And yeah, you know, we have a comment that from Tamara that we could address this and do a whole webinar about this maybe next time and really dig into it. I do have a list of questions, like 985 questions that are broken down into about 10 or 12 different categories. So if you go on my website, which is marriagemindedmentor.com, and you go, Tamara, maybe you can type that in for me, but go to resources, and you'll see there under resources, 985 questions, and I categorize them. So you can just click on whichever category, and some of them are fun and some of them are random, and there's 985. So I'm sure somebody could find 20 questions that they actually like out of that list. Some are this or that. And sometimes it's just a matter of having something to say and to throw something out there to get a conversation going. And it might not be about your life and what you're doing. It might just be something totally random because, hey, we've talked about so many things, you know, I don't know what else to ask, or I just want to like kind of be playful. I just want to learn how to, you know, engage with you and see if we can carry a conversation about a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and nothing that's too deep or too personal yet, but just to get to know the light side of you. So I found that those things help in the beginning. And I don't know if the game that you mentioned is the same one, but Perfect Matches is a game. Is that?
I'm going to take a look at the cover. Exactly. 1 second.
Okay. Because Perfect Matches is a game that a bunch of my singles have played. I don't know if it's the same one.
That's
Perfect
it.
Matches. Okay, great. So Perfect Matches came out several years ago, and it's something that people, they're like, oh, I got it for my friend. I'm passing it around. I'm taking it on my date. I find people don't love it on the first date. They want to learn how to just converse and communicate, but maybe for a later date, you know, a second date, third date, fourth date, and
They've run out
beyond.
of things to talk about. It comes in very
Exactly.
handy. And she
Exactly.
said also, which I thought was interesting, before you start the game, you're supposed to look at the person for a minute and not say anything. And it just,
Yeah,
there's something weird about it, but it's true. It connects you. And
it
I
does.
people give feedback. Yeah. So that was something interesting.
I
It
usually
does.
use dating questions on the third video date.
Great.
Also, Aleeza just wrote an article. It's on aish.com, and it's dating questions. So,
Oh, it's about, yeah, about questions and conversations and keeping it going. So if you go to aish.com, when you put in the search box, if you put in my name and it's with 2 E's, Aleeza Ben Shalom, you'll see the most recent article is about conversations and dating. Laurie, maybe when we send out an email follow-up, we can put in 985 questions, the link to the article, and any other resources that we have.
great.
We'll send that out to everybody.
Great. Okay. Aleeza, you had unmuted. Did you want to say anything else?
Yes, I had a question, please. This is about age difference. I'm in the process of trying to get a couple together, and I know I'm pushing the envelope. This is very unusual. There's a 14-year age difference between the two. However, every situation is different, right? And I think that in this situation, it's worth the compromise. And I really would value your opinion, Aleeza and Laurie, to hear what you think about this. How much should I push? If there seems to be a lot of potential in other areas in a challenging situation, how far should I push or should I not?
Okay, so can you just tell me what is the reason besides, I mean, is it just the age or is there anything else?
Why they wouldn't like to meet each other?
Yeah.
Okay, so the male agreed to the shidduch after a month of me speaking with him. The second reason that he was hesitant was that she has a strong personality, and he was afraid that her personality would be too strong for him. It is accurate. She does have a strong personality. I do feel that he can handle this. Through our conversations, he has a backbone. Everything that she cares about, that she's passionate about, those are his passions.
And for her, was it age only?
So the main thing was his age, and second was she doesn't want to rein herself in. She wants to be her strong self. And I do feel that she needs coaching, and she needs to modify a little bit, not to change herself, but in order to make a relationship work, we all need a little bit of a learning curve. Okay. I'm not ready to let it go, but this age is very glaring in her eyes.
And what ages are they approximately ish? She's
34 and he's 48, and it's the second time around marriage. They're both divorced. Both divorced.
Okay. So hang on, Regina. So in general, what I would tell you, without having heard that story, right? I wanted to hear the story, but I'm going to give you two sides of the coin. In general, what I would tell you is age difference for sure. Absolutely push through if you think it's a good shidduch. I don't have reservations about age. I have seen age gaps. Oh gosh, significant age gaps. 14 years is nothing. 20, 22 years plus. And I have seen things successfully work. I'm not saying it's normal. I'm not saying it's recommended. I'm just saying it has worked for some couples. It's kind of like winning the shidduch lottery with the age, for the man, that's just what it is. It happens to a sporadic few people. 14 years is kind of the upper age limit in the range of normal, believe it or not. But it's still I would still categorize it in the range of normal. Once we're 15 through 20 plus years difference, then we're starting to talk about a significant difference. The story that you told, though, I'm concerned. And the reason that I'm concerned is she doesn't want to be reined in, and he doesn't like the way that she is. And he's clear that he doesn't like it, and she's clear, I'm not interested in changing. Accept me for who I am. So even though everything else about the shidduch might be amazing, I'm very concerned, because if you would have told a different story and said, Aleeza, she wants to be reined in. She knows she's tough, but she wants somebody to rein her in. He says, look, I don't want to rein somebody in, but if she's open to it, I could do it because I hear how many amazing things are. Okay, we've got something to work with. But when she goes, I like who I am. And by the way, I've been divorced before. So I'm not looking to be pushed and molded into anybody else. No, thank you. And he says, I've tried molding somebody. It already didn't work. I'm not saying this is the story. I'm just, making a, what if. I don't want to rein somebody, and I know how that works. Let her be who she is. She's happy with who she is, but that's not going to work for me. It's really not going to work if me, like if he doesn't want to accept who she is and she doesn't want to change who she is. You have to do that work before you set them up on the date. So you have to do a lot of pre-work and pre-coaching, and it could take 2 years or 5 years until they all wrap their head around it. And by that time, he'll be in his 50s and she really won't be interested. We only have like a small window right here. You also have a small window with a large age gap if they're under 50. Over 50, it gets much, much harder with a 14-year age gap. But if they're under 50, even if it's 49, 48, there's just like a little window of possibility and hope. I had a couple recently, and she was, I think it was about an 18-year age gap, and she wasn't going to go out with him and wasn't going to go out with him and wasn't going to go out with him. And finally, she just said, look, I asked her, if he was your age, would you go out with him? Is everything else in line? And she said, yes. And I said, do you want to consider going out with him? And she did say yes. And it took 3 times as long to go through the dating process, but she messaged me about 2 months ago and said she got engaged. She said, you won't believe it. It actually worked. And I wouldn't have picked him. It was not my choice to, like, I avoided this because I really, really, really did not think that this was the right thing to do, but I can't deny that this is the person for me, and I have to move ahead with this.
Aleeza, what happens if the woman is older? What's your feeling if the woman is, say, 6 years older?
Thank you.
I've helped shidduchs like that also. So I had a couple anywhere from 2 years to 9 years older. The woman was anywhere between 2 to 9 years older. The women are usually in their 30s, or it could even be early 40s, but 30s, and the men are usually somewhere in their 20s. As long as we can get everybody's head over it, the shidduch itself is like any other shidduch. It works beautifully. The challenge is getting somebody's head over it, and it's work. It's a lot of work.
And I 40 years older than her husband in the Torah. I like to hold on to that one.
Beautiful. I didn't know that. That is an awesome piece of Torah shidduch trivia. So what I'll tell you, and this is my follow-up from having spoken to the men, if the women are under 5 years older, they don't really feel the age gap as much. Even though it mentally might bother them, they don't feel it as much. The couples where the woman is 7 or more years older, they feel it. He's 25 and she's 32, and then she goes to celebrate her birthday and turn 33, and he's like, happy birthday, sweetheart. Like it just, he's like, can we not put numbers on the cake and talk about it? Like it just, I know, I'm okay with it. I love you. You're beautiful. But, just so, like, you're going to be 50 something and I'm going to be 40 something at some point. And that just makes my brain hurt.
Yeah, I know.
It's a little bit difficult.
We live longer. We live longer than men, they say. So
it's true. It's true.
To the Aleeza who asked the question, Aleeza Ben Shalom and I made 2 little videos that both talk about age. And Aleeza, if you put your email in the chat box, I'll send you both of those little videos. I actually sent them to a woman who was about 34. She was in her 40s and he was getting close to 60, and I wanted her to accept the match. And I sent her both of the videos, and she said she watched both of the videos, and this was the oldest match she ever accepted. It didn't go past 1 video date, but she said yes. So maybe our videos helped. So Aleeza, if you put your email there, I will send you those 2 little videos. You'll just have them handy if they will help you. Okay.
And also, Regina, I'm so sorry. We didn't come back. We didn't circle back to you.
So,
is it still relevant?
It is still relevant because the 7th was our Hebrew anniversary. We're almost to the 8th, which is our secular anniversary. My husband and I have a 25-point spread between us.
Wow.
And Baruch Hashem, we are married now 30 years. We have a 24-year-old son. And the thing that I say when I'm trying to encourage someone to consider somebody who's older is that it's just a number. You don't marry a number, you marry a person. And they seem to hear that. And I also use myself as the poster child for marrying an older man when it's appropriate. So I just wanted to.
Because you have it, it's genuine and sincere when it comes
That's
from
right.
you.
That's
And
right.
so, and my husband and I are 10 and a half years apart. So when I was, 39, we have 6, months where he's that half a year older, that 10 and a half. And so I was 39 and he's in his 50, he turned 50 and he's like,
Yep.
I've got a wife in her 30s. I was like,
Good for
right. I was
and
like,
I
got a
was
husband in his
34 when we
50s.
married. I was 34
Wow.
when we married. So for the gal who's 34, the guy who's 14 years older, it's just
Right, it's nothing.
a little resonance. So
Right.
just wanted
Right.
to share that.
Okay, I think you did great again, Aleeza. I really thank you for helping us, and I'm sure we're all going to be better matchmakers from this minute on, and we'll
Amen.
hopefully only improve. And thank you
Amen.
for sharing your wisdom.
Amen. Thank you for having me again. And in addition to these matchmaker webinars, I do also have webinars that I do for singles. I've been doing them on a weekly basis. So there are about 13 or 14 that have been recorded, and they're on my website under the events page. If there's any topic that is interesting to you and you're like, oh, I want to, find out more about that, you could watch that. I do a similar format where we do about 20 minutes to half an hour of an intro on the topic, and then I do a whole hour of Q&A with the singles, and they throw questions in and we discuss the topic and throw it around. So that's available for anybody who's interested.
And I've watched most of those, and they're great. Like I said, every
Thank
time
you.
Aleeza opens her mouth, you're going to learn something.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Laurie. Thank you for
Aleeza.
having me again.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.